Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you so much for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. Today, I am so happy to have as our guest naturopathic physician, Dr. Kara Fitzgerald. Dr. Fitzgerald is the first ever recipient of the Emerging Leadership Award from the Personalized Lifestyle Medicine Institute in recognition of her work on DNA methylation. As a leading voice in the intersection of nutrition, epigenetics, and aging, Dr. Fitzgerald's work has been featured in media outlets such as Prevention, Fast Company, MSN, Everyday Health, and many more. She received her doctorate from National University of Natural Medicine, and she is on the faculty at the Institute for Functional Medicine and is an IFM certified practitioner. Dr. Fitzgerald is in Connecticut, right nearby to us from our broadcast studios here on Long Island. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Kara.
Absolutely. It's just a pleasure to be with you.
Now, one thing I want to point out is that you have recently written a beautiful book. Tell us about why you chose the book that you did write. You have so much expertise in many different areas.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, yeah, but so for most of my career, I've been kind of behind the scenes educating other professionals at the Institute for Functional Medicine and my work in the lab. And then I've been in clinical practice as well. So I haven't been sort of in the bigger space with my work until we conducted a study, the study that the book is based on, looking at gene expression and biological age. So back in 2013, I started to read the literature on epigenetics, which is the science of gene expression. So epi above, genetics the gene. I started to really kind of dive into that world and through the lens of functional medicine. So how are we thinking about epigenetic expression in our work with our patients? And my take home back in 2013, 14, 15 was that we needed to put together a diet forward, a nutrient forward program that would speak to our genes. Actually, I should say a nutrient and lifestyle forward program. So we really scoured the literature on the scientific literature on nutrients that influence epigenetic expression and a specific type of epigenetic mark called DNA methylation. So DNA methylation is sort of a key sort of big way that we regulate gene expression. There are many other ways that we do it, but DNA methylation seems to be one that's, it's certainly best studied. It's very resilient through many cell divisions. There's even, it even has a heritability component, so we can hand off this epigenetic expression to our offspring, and we can test DNA methylation. So it struck me, reading a lot of the science on cancer back then, that a diet and lifestyle forward program was essential. And we created it in our practice. And we launched an ebook for professionals. In fact, I started to teach other professionals on our program back then. Mark Hyman, who was then the clinic director at Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine, brought me in to do a training for their staff and their nutrition team so they could use it. And I trained over at the Institute for Functional Medicine as well. So clinicians were interested in this, but, the big question was, are we really influencing genetic expression? And back then, you couldn't just send a patient over to Quest to see, to measure gene expression. I mean, you still can't. Those tools were only available in the research setting. And so we were given a grant to do a randomized clinical trial an unrestricted grant to study what our program was doing, and that was given to us by Metagenics, which is a professional supplement company. And I'm eternally grateful for them enabling us to look at whether or not our protocol influenced gene expression. And we completed the study in 2019. So we started in 2018. It took, almost 2 years. And it was an 8-week program, and we'll talk about the specifics, but the first sort of massive, very exciting finding was that we changed gene expression in our participants to something more youthful. And we can talk about how you measure biological age via gene expression. But we showed after the 8-week program, we had reversed our participants' biological age as compared to the control group who didn't do our program by over 3 years. I did not expect to see that, to be honest.
That was a big change in something so measurable. And I just want to tell our listeners that you're on board today, right here at Herbally Yours. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you're listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse. And our guest today is Dr. Kara Fitzgerald, naturopathic doctor. And we're talking about her new book, which is absolutely beautiful. And if you want to see more about what we're talking about on air today, your book really does a great job. And just perusing it, it seems like this was written for the public, not necessarily for professionals. You have really good science in here, but it's an easy to read.
Yes.
And it's called Younger You.
Yes, we definitely. So once we had discovered that we had the remarkable biological age reversal in our population, first of all, I want to say that it got a lot of attention. It got attention from scientific community, but it also got attention from, the regular media like Martha Stewart and Yahoo and MSNBC and just sort of on. And it was so exciting and a decidedly different space than I'm usually in. But it was clear that we just needed to make this available to everybody. Not only is it important that all of us are thinking about staying biologically young and taking steps towards doing it, it's possible. I mean, I think that's what this study suggests, that it's possible. And so we pivoted. I was given a book deal based on our study findings, and we just wanted to make it as plain language as possible. So I worked with a author who assisted me in translating, my rabbit hole into plain language. And we worked really hard on it. And that is Younger You. So everybody can do exactly what we did in our study and adopt the diet and lifestyle program that had such remarkable results with our participants.
And so, these are things we hear all the time. I would say one of our first doctors who really made some inroads into, let's say, the belief within medicine that diet and lifestyle is important was really Dean Ornish did a lot of work in that area, because when he first did his research, it was like life changing completely, that he was a renowned scientist that said what you eat, what you think, your state of stress, your state of exercise can measurably change health.
Yes, I know. Oh my goodness. It's, obviously it's crazy. When your training is in naturopathic medicine, I steeped deeply in the knowledge of that. Actually, I was raised with a mom who was really quite savvy and read Adele Davis. And my grandmother did too. And so I was sort of raised with the knowledge of how important, nutrition is on health and our life. And then we start to put the science behind it. And yes, of course, Dean Ornish is an amazing scientist and continues to really publish. But yes, it's so we're starting to put evidence behind what we've already known. I think the big thing with this study is that we've got a reliable measure of biological age now. And that's, again, it's just another reason why it got so much attention. And that is measured by looking at gene expression patterns. And it's incredibly new. The very first biological age clock using DNA methylation / gene expression was only launched in 2013. And they did not think, the scientist who created that clock, Steve Horvath out of UCLA, didn't think that diet and lifestyle would appreciably influence. He thought that there might be a modest influence, but not appreciably. At the time of our study publication in 2021, so really not long ago at all, there were only maybe 3 other papers that suggested there might be an ability to make a difference in biological age. So it's such a new science. And ours was the first to have a randomized control in it. And so it's new, it's very exciting. A lot of what I do in the book are things that are not surprising to those who are savvy with diet and lifestyle. But what is extraordinary is that we can see its influence on biological age.
So let me ask you this. How long is it going to take for this to be mainstream intervention?
Yeah.
And why isn't it? It is so well proven now. It makes such a big difference in how people feel. And by the way, I don't like the word anti-aging, seeing as I'm old, over 70. And I feel
you sound really young though, and you're
whatever, but I'm not. And the thing is
biologically, you probably are.
Probably true. But a lot of it, I do think, like you said, is inborn, because my relatives all lived over 100 and healthy. And then they dropped dead. 1, 2, 3, boom, which is a great thing. None of this like getting old stuff. It's just not part of my family. So part of that is, like you said, genetic. But then what you're finding out is for those people who aren't as fortunate, it's so much of it has to do with what you do in your life.
Well, I would actually push back a little bit on the genetic piece. We have not been able, so genes can make a difference, of course, but it's estimated that your genes maybe influence 20 to 30% of lifespan. Like, they're not heavy lifters. I mean, it's fabulous that your family, has this nice, what they call a compression of morbidity. So you live really well, and then you kind of die easy and peacefully. Sort of Betty White actually had that beautiful.
God bless her, right? Like
good,
that.
Yes,
fine, gone. Really good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And that's called, it's called scientifically, it's called compression of morbidity. And there is a research scientist out of Stanford, James Fries, who wrote about that in the 80s. But I want to say that, it's not, it is for the vast majority of it. Maybe there's a genetic piece in your family, but maybe they were also doing some things right, and I want to say that. So clearly Betty White was doing a lot right in her life. And one of the big things she was doing right was just living this really good, big, well-connected, very satisfying life. And maybe your family members did some of that, or maybe they ate some good foods. And
I think it's the Mediterranean diet, because they're from like Greece and Turkey. And
perfect.
What we ate.
Yes.
What's now called the Mediterranean diet.
And it was even probably simpler and cleaner back then. Absolutely, Ellen. I think that's a huge point. So and the reason that I say this, and I want to underscore it, is because we are in the driver's seat for our longevity, our health span. Like, it's up to us, and we can see it now because we're able to look at gene expression. And as my mentor and friend, Dr. Jeff Bland says, this is great responsibility. We have the possibility to extend our health span, to extend our lifespan, to live a long, high quality life and die peacefully. That's within all of us, all of our reach. But
it's
we
so great.
we need
Bland,
to choose it.
Dr. Serafina Corsello, who I worked with, I was her head nurse for 23 years. She and Dr. Bland started a lot of organizations together. So I was very familiar with all his work when he was first coming up, and what a wonderful mentor and teacher, and someone that you are taking it much deeper, because you're making this accessible, through your book, very simple ways for anyone in younger you.
Yes.
So let's talk about, if somebody wanted to find out and work with you, I imagine, are you working with clients now, from anywhere? since we're all doing telehealth now?
Yeah. So my clinic is, I am personally not taking on new patients myself, but I'm the clinic director of our practice, and I'm involved in all of the care. So we've got rounds meetings that I attend. So I'm there in the background, definitely influencing what's happening at our clinic as clinic director. We've got, but we do work with people in the Zoom space for sure. Yeah, we do virtual medicine.
So people can, on a very practical level, as you describe in your book, Young or You, actually have a test. And how are these tests done? Are they done with saliva or with blood to determine where you're at? And then you initiate a program, diet and lifestyle, that actually can change the parameters for the better.
That's right. Yep. You can do it in saliva or in blood. Yes, that's exactly right, Ellen. We've launched an app. So we've got a digital platform where people can jump into as well and just be, and walk through our program also. So they can come to our practice if they want to. They can work with one of the physicians here if they would like to, or they can work with our nutrition team, or they can, jump in our app and access it that way.
What is the name of the app?
The name of the app is 3 Years Younger, so 3YY. And people can find the app at join.3yyprogram.com.
Okay, I don't think I have that on there, but we have Dr. Kara Fitzgerald.com listed as a place people can visit, and perhaps they can find it there, which is great.
Yep, they'll be yes.
So what is the procedure? Let's say somebody was interested, and you get this test, and
so it depends. So one can do the program with the book. One needn't plug in elsewhere. But if you were to work with us and get a test, or you can actually see in the book where you can order a test yourself, there's a resource section. So you can do this with us in the clinic. You can do it through the app, or you can do it in the book. And anybody can do it. And in fact, Ellen, let me actually say this, that we've got a biological age subjective questionnaire. Of course, I'd love everybody to get their DNA methylation, their biological age, through the test if they want to. That's awesome. But if you don't want to pay for it, you can do our biological age subjective questionnaire, which is in the book. And it's also online. And then you can see your you'll get a biological age estimate after you complete the simple, it's like a 4-minute questionnaire. So you can do that and get your baseline. And then you jump into our program, which is 8 weeks. And there's a diet program that we outline that's, it's a very plant-forward program, lots of veggies, lots of good, greens and colorful veggies, lots of fruit and so forth, or, dark berries and, specific low glycemic fruits. There are a lot of polyphenol nutrients that I'm sure you talk a lot about here on your show, like curcumin and green tea, quercetin, luteolin, and on and on. And we talk about how to get those in your diet and how much to have. We want people to exercise, and we prescribed a very simple exercise program in the book, or in our research study that we outline in the book. We want people to pay attention to their sleep and get sufficient sleep. And I talk about that in the book, and how to achieve it.
I wonder why so many people, Dr. Kara, find that challenging. So many people, especially as you age, because I live in an adult community, and that's a big complaint of many people, that they even go to bed and then they fall asleep, but then they wake up and they cannot get back to sleep.
Yeah, I know. I know it's an extraordinary phenomena in the Western world. And it's important that we address it in a way that, those wake-ups, those frequent wake-ups that so many of us struggle with, that we figure those out and how to work with them. So it could be a stress-mediated. Oftentimes it's anxiety or, lots of thinking, et cetera, that wakes us up. It might be too much liquid. And so we need to empty our bladders. It's important to problem solve what's causing the wake up. Is it sleep apnea? Sometimes it might be hormonally mediated. And I spend a lot of time in the book walking through problem solving, sort of troubleshooting your poor sleep and how to resolve it. And the reason I spend a lot of time in the book is because it was my weak link also. I mean, I've got a toddler, I'm waking up all the time, and I need to be able to fall back asleep. So how do I do that over and over? I mean, Isabella probably woke up last night, God, 3 times. And, I'm in the deepest sleep and, she's calling me.
Which is normal. I used to do, my children are 47 and 43, but I used to actually have their dad sometimes have to be the one to get up. Mm-hmm. That was something that helped.
Yeah, that's right. But you're still hearing them. So you're still, your sleep is still impacted. And but you learned how back then to let it go and fall back asleep. I mean, those are the skills, what you figured out back then, those are the skills that we need to bring into our lives later on, like you had cultivated that skill. I use when I wake up and I'm not, after I've gone and tended to her and I need to bring myself down, I might listen to a sleep meditation that I've downloaded on my phone with earbuds, or I might put some white noise on. I make sure my room is cool. I make sure that it's very dark. I mean, there's sort of a set of skills that I've pulled together so that when my sleep is disturbed, I'm able to, get back to sleep and get sufficient amount of sleep so that I can function, because I've got a lot going on. And we all need to do that. We all need to figure it out. Sometimes, it's simple lifestyle hacks that will enable us to get a nice, good night's sleep.
Well, I'll share one that I've used with menopausal women who often have that, where they wake up with hot flashes and a monkey mind, where you have all these thoughts going on. One combination I've really seen work, and so many people, is a combination of the herb motherwort and sage. And what they do is have them, usually in liquid herbal extract form, on their night table. So when they wake up at night, they take those and it helps them to go back to sleep, and doesn't seem to have, negative effects, and has really helped a variety of individuals. I haven't tried it on men, but on women.
Oh, that's absolutely perfect. Yeah, we need those nice, simple hacks. And some of us are going to have to do a little bit more. Obviously, if our thyroid is off, we're going to need support there. If we do need hormone replacement therapy, we're going to need to work with a physician for that. If we've got untreated sleep apnea, that has to be corrected. But for many, 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 many of us, it's just accumulating these simple hacks. And I want to tell you a huge one for me, and then we can talk about, the other parts of this program. But honestly, one of the biggest ones for me was making sure I go to bed on time. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, but how many of us don't? If I don't go to bed on time, then it's going to be impossible for me to get 7, decent hours, because I have to wake up earlier. My kid's going to wake up. And that alone made a big difference. I actually wear an Oura ring, which tracks my sleep and the quality of my sleep, and it gives me nice feedback. If I exercise too late, sometimes that influences my sleep. If I eat too late, that might influence my sleep. If I eat too many carbs late, that influences my sleep. I don't drink alcohol, but when I used to, that would definitely influence my sleep. Even one glass of wine had a negative effect. So it's just, there's so much we can do to have a good night's sleep. And I think we've lost sight of that.
But I would say one of the exciting parts of your book, and why it got so much media attention, is that people can actually reduce their age, their biological age, and live more comfortably.
Yes.
I mean, that's really exciting. And in your book, you talk about it's nice to have the test so you know where you're at to start out with. And then I imagine you can retest to see how you've changed it, but you're going to feel a lot different along the way. Where do people get the motivation that they always seem to be struggling for to make these very sensible changes in their diet and exercise patterns?
So we are in an era where we can see how our life influences our gene expression, how our life will influence our quality of life for the rest of our lives. I mean, we're in a revolution in science and medicine. Once upon a time, we didn't think what we did made a heck of a lot of difference. And we ate a processed American diet. It's more sedentary, et cetera, et cetera. Once upon a time, we just thought our genes were our destiny and we were locked in and, luck of the draw as to whether or not we get dementia or cardiovascular disease, et cetera. Or a lot of us just thought that was our fate. What we know now is that it's up to us whether we want to have a robust health span and lifespan. We're really in the driver's seat. And I want to tell you, in America, in the United States, we spend the last 16 years of our lives sick. I mean, it's just mind-blowing to me. We have at least the majority of us have 2 significant diseases. We're on multiple medication. We are giving our hard-earned money, not to our kids and our grandkids. We're giving it to skilled nursing, or somebody coming in our home. We're even signing away our home for medical care. We're in the hospital. We're buying very expensive medication. I mean, honestly, Ellen, if that doesn't motivate us to want to make a change and get into the driver's seat of the quality of our lives and how we live our lives, I don't know what will. I mean, for me, I feel like I want to scream it from the mountaintop.
And you are in your book, Younger You, Reduce Your Bio Age and Live Longer and Better. And that is written by our guest, Dr. Kara Fitzgerald, ND, very easy book to find. And you really do outline a beautiful pathway of getting a hold of wherever someone is. And it's not like it's ever too late. You show how making these changes is good at any age.
Well, our population were middle-aged. I mean, we had folks in their 70s in our study. So indeed, and let me actually say this little cool tidbit. In some cases, you get more bang for your gene expression buck when you adopt these principles when you're older than you do when you're younger. It is. There's a really cool study looking at exercise, and older people actually got better genetic changes, epigenetic changes than younger folks.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being our guest today right here on Herbally Yours.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning into Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. For further information, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamai at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.